Hey, what's up, AfterBuzzers? Welcome to the Braxton Family Values After Show, episode 22. We have so much to talk about on today's show. Tamar's boo meets the family. Traci is trying to become a comedian, and Tamar moves into the Big Brother house. That and so much more. Keep it locked right here.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey, okay, a little poppy. I can do this. As long as y'all keep surprising me with pop, I'm good. Hey, yo, welcome to the Braxton Family Values After Show. I am your man, Tyler Tyson. This is the After Show, episode 22 of Braxton Family Values, and I am joined by my lovely co-host for the day, the beautiful Erika Joy. Go ahead.
Thank you. That's such a great way to open it up.
Listen.
I'm Erika Hunter, and I'm so happy to be back with you guys. We have 50% of our panel, but look, we're going to hold it down tonight. We're going to
rock and roll this thing. There's so much to talk about. I feel like we can do this.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to hold it down for Imani and Sierra while they're out. So let's get into this, you guys. First things first, Toni and Birdman. I feel like every show we're talking Toni and Birdman. This show's no different.
It's not. And I'm so disappointed in the fact that we're left on a tangent of just not knowing, well, what are you all actually doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you together? Are you not together? Are you taking space? You know, and I think, I forget what sister actually said this, but she said it so perfectly that they're playing a game of double dutch.
Oh,
like
yeah, Trina. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in again, then they're out again. And it's just like, you all just define what the relationship is at this point.
I feel like we're watching high schoolers. Like, at the ages that they are, I'm not going to throw their ages out there. You know what you want. Do we want this or not? Like, there's no need for the back and forth. Like, I am not quite half their age, but I'm definitely younger than them. And I would never go back and forth like this. Either,
right.
As I said the last episode, is we is or is we ain't going to do this.
Man.
Like, I know that's grammatically incorrect, but still, like, you get it.
But I think that they're in a situation where maybe they just feel comfortable with each other. And I know, speaking from experience, that when you get comfortable with someone, it's kind of hard to detach, even if you know that you aren't meant to be with each other, you know? And so I think that might be their situation. I guess it's too early to tell, but...
Well, the thing is, there's no pressure. Like, once again, at this particular age,
True.
If we decide that, you know what, Erika, we're good. We're good in this space that we're in. We don't have to define it by a marriage. We don't have to rush anything. Let's just ride this out and let things happen naturally. I don't know why there's this rush to the altar that they seem to be on. And I think that's what's causing so much friction, because when you rush something, you know, I'm always good for a tidbit. When you rush something, it's not natural. And then things become off and it's not organic. And if it's not organic, like, we can't build anything real if it's not natural.
That's true.
I really think that's their biggest issue.
Do you think that there's anything from the public maybe that has caused them to be uncertain, like any pressure maybe from the public that they feel? Or
yeah, I mean, the great thing about us as of right now, because, you know, we are on our way to being the next Steve Harvey and Oprah and whoever else in media, Terrence J and all of them. But right now, you know, we don't have people scrutinizing every single thing that we do. So if we get into a relationship and it doesn't work, nobody knows it but us and maybe our close friends. Whereas Toni Braxton, we might not care that much about Birdman, at least I don't.
I second that.
But Toni, we're always all in. Like, we're like, okay, what is she doing? Who is she dating? Where's her money? Da 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 da. Like, we're just in it. So I think that's the difference for them.
Yeah,
so.
I can see that.
So that's them. Moving on. Another huge moment in the show for me was Traci is working at trying to be a comedian, which you would think would be a seamless crossover for her.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
It wasn't. And it was so hard to watch because in the confessionals, I feel like Traci is a sister who always makes me laugh.
Yes.
And so when she got on stage, I was expecting, you know, me to laugh. Mm-hmm. And I just looked at the screen like, oh my goodness, sis, I need you to get off stage. You're embarrassing yourself. So I felt humiliated for her.
Right.
And I mean, it's good that she's trying to try something new. Mm-hmm. I think that's great. Mm-hmm. But it goes back to knowing what your gifts are. And I don't think comedy is her gift.
So with Traci, oh gosh, I hate to be the guy that always like comes in and goes in on people, but I feel like Traci is playing a part. I feel like she's not being her true organic self.
Why
like Tamar, when Tamar does the lip pop and the, oh, you tried it, and that's her.
Yeah.
Like, she's not putting on the front. When Toni comes off, as Sierra said on the last show, kind of dry and almost aloof, like she doesn't really want to be there, she's not putting on, that's her. When Trina's talking about drinking and being the party girl and all, That's
her.
her. Towanda being the responsible one and Secret Squirrel, that's her. This is not, Traci is, in my opinion, we all know that over-the-top, flamboyant type gay guy. And I feel like Traci's impersonating that. Like, she's impersonating what she sees her hair and makeup people doing. She's impersonating what she sees. And I'm not saying that Tamar copies anyone from the gay drag community. However, take that how you will. But I feel like Traci is trying to imitate Tamar, imitating them.
Yes.
And so it comes off that way.
I don't know if you noticed, but when she was on stage, she kept doing the lip smacking thing. And I'm like, no,
That's not
Traci, this
you.
isn't you. That's Tamar's thing.
Yeah.
You know, so I could see why you would say that.
If Traci would just be herself, which is a straight shooter, real, blunt, she doesn't always use the right grammar. The words are sometimes not even words.
Right.
That is funny, and that's natural. If she would do that, she would do a much better job.
Yeah, so Traci, please just give us what you give us during the confessionals on stage, and we would love to support your comedy.
Just be you. Like,
Right.
you know how she's always said she felt like the underdog and all of this is the perfect opportunity for you to live in your truth and be you. So Traci, we just want you to be you, be great, and stop trying to be something that you're not.
Yes,
all I got
because
to
who
say.
you are is great.
Yeah, we love you. Now, from one sister to another, Trina and Von. So in this episode, we didn't really see that much of Trina and Von, but there was a moment that kind of stood out for me, which was the fact when they were, I believe, in a park in Atlanta, and they had a one-on-one, and Trina asked him, so would you think about or consider moving to Atlanta? He lives in St. Louis. Would you consider that? The first thing I thought was, oh, he doesn't live in Atlanta? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, like, so long distance relationships at their age. How does this work?
I don't know. I mean, I think in that conversation, Trina might have been a little bit too pushy to me.
Okay.
Because I think, yes, she has every right to know in what direction are we moving? What's the next step in our relationship? But I don't think that it's up to the woman to decide. Let me brace myself when I say this.
She goes.
But I don't think it's up to the woman to decide at what point do we say, okay, let's move in together. I think I would appreciate for my man to say, I'm ready to move in. Maybe I don't have enough experience in the relationship department. I'm still young, still trying to figure it out. But I think it might be a prideful thing on my part. I wouldn't ask my dude, let's move in.
So let me
together.
ask you, I know we're not at this part of the show yet, but you know I'm always good for a quick little sidebar. In the era of feminism, in the era of women standing up for themselves and taking control, would you think that a woman should, like, I know you said that you wouldn't, but does that kind of go against the whole feminist thing? And like, I'm a strong, independent woman. I can do it however I want. Like, does that kind of go against that?
It does. But again, I mentioned that it might be a prideful thing with me. Like, I would just appreciate my dude initiating that conversation and saying like, okay, I'm ready to now move in with you. I think I wouldn't put myself in a position at 24 to say, okay, let's take the next step. And I mean, I feel like we're still learning their relationship.
Right,
so
right.
at what point in the relationship do you even have that conversation of let's move in together without a ring?
That part. Now, you know, there's been rumors of a ring. They've been alluding to the fact that he might propose one day, possibly. But like you said, there's no ring right now. So did he actually say when they were having that meeting that conversation that moving in, was that the topic, moving in, or was it just moving to the same city?
Well, if you remember, Trina said, I don't want to have us pay 2 mortgages. So she's talking about moving in, splitting half the mortgage, splitting half the light bill. Like, she made all of that clear. And so I'm just like, okay, but wait, where's the ring? At least for me.
Yeah.
We got to have that conversation once there's been an engagement.
Can we at least get engaged
Can
first?
we at least get engaged before we talk about moving in with
I'm
each
not
other?
mad at that. Well, I did notice also that Von was there at Toni's performance so Toni had a concert. Toni got nominated for 3 Grammys, which is
Yes.
phenomenal. Congratulations, Toni, on your Grammy nominations. I don't think she won though. Just a spoiler alert.
I don't
but
know if she did.
And she should have, for the song was Long As I Live. She should have won. She did win an NAACP Image Award, but she did not win the Grammy. But do you, at that performance, she invited Towanda and Trina to come up and perform. You know, they were her doo-wop pop chicks
Yeah.
at one point. And so they went back and they performed, and Vaughn was there. You saw the kids, Eric and I forget her youngest one. Caleb?
Yes.
Yep. How did you feel about Vaughn being in that space? Because he's always there. That's why I didn't know they didn't live in the same city.
I gotta say, I appreciate Vaughn because he's a man. And when I say he's a man, he is a man. Because any man who sticks by his woman after seeing how she responded to Gabe's death and can support her in that, there's absolutely nothing else that he wouldn't be able to support her in. Because I think that might be the hardest thing. At least early on in the relationship for them to have to endure. So I think it was great.
Just speaking back a little bit from the last episode, and I didn't get to say this, that would not be difficult for me.
Really?
Like if I'm dating and you are mourning the death of the person that you were in a relationship, maybe even right before me, I'm okay with that. Like I'm secure enough in our relationship and our thing where it's like I low key would respect it and I low-key would love it if you mourn that person because that kind of speaks to your character and that speaks to your heart, and that is the type of person I would want to be with. Yeah.
Now you mentioned a good word there. You said you're secure. Not all men are.
That is true.
And Vaughn presents himself as secure.
Listen, as you said, Vaughn is a man's man. He is
a man.
He is a man. So speaking of that, I think we have a little sidebar and a little note for our viewers and our listeners here at AfterBuzz.
If you're tuning in with us tonight, that means that you appreciate the shows that we bring to you week after week, and we appreciate you. Thank you for letting us be the ESPN of TV talk. So if you're on YouTube right now, go ahead and like that video right there, and be sure to subscribe. Check us out on iTunes and Spotify. Leave us a rating and give us those 5 stars.
Absolutely. And jump into that chat room too. If you're in our chat room, jump in there, leave some comments so we can shout you out. All of that stuff. So, okay, moving on from that. Tamar. The rest of this show, just to warn you, is about Tamar. And we set it up this way because there's always so much to say about Tamar. Let's start lightly and go into the Big Brother house. So we saw in this episode Tamar was getting ready to move into the Big Brother house. There was this whole thing, how many wigs am I gonna bring? I only have this small itty bitty little suitcase. We saw LaTroy, which is her, I found out he works for her. I thought he was just her best friend, but he works for her also. And Towanda were helping her go through this process. What do you think? What were your thoughts in watching that?
Seeing Logan there, I was in my feelings because I'm like, oh my goodness, she's going to leave her child for 30 days, which, I mean, doesn't sound like a long time, but I would imagine for a mother, you know, that's pretty rough. But she handles it pretty well. And Towanda being there to help her pack and her friend there, I think that was super helpful and has allowed for her to prepare the best way she can for this 30 days.
So the interesting thing to me, and I don't know if anybody else picked up on this whole discussion, who's going to watch Logan? Who's going to take Logan? We're going to have the mom take Logan for this long, then Tawanda's going to come in and all of this. And why is no one mentioning Vincent? Because he is his father.
Oh my
so
goodness,
if Tamar's going to be gone for 30 days, it seems like a no-brainer. He goes to his father. Why is nobody else seeing this?
I thought about that in the last episode when she was trying to find out, well, who's going to take care of my son? That was my initial thought. Well, where is Vincent? And then I thought, well, he's a busy man, much like Tamar is. But, I mean, I would imagine he also has a family of his own as well.
Oh, like sisters and...
sisters and, you know, siblings and what have you. But, yeah, I was like, where's Vincent?
Because, that, I mean, to me, that's the natural progression of this whole thing. And then also, you know, people are saying, like you kind of alluded to, it's like, well, she's a mom and she's going to be gone from her child. No one would ever say, oh, well, he's a dad and he's going to be gone from his child for 30 days. It's like, no, dad got to go make this money. So I don't feel like there should be this extra set of rules where it's like we have to put this guilt on moms that have to do what they got to do to get this money.
Speak on it.
Because you have to take care of your kid, especially if clearly Vincent is not in the picture.
Right.
Like, you know.
And I don't know if you noticed, but there was a lot of shade towards Vincent in this part in the episode too, when
from the mom, from Mama E,
from Traci. I'm like, oh my goodness.
So you just brought this up. Let's get into the biggest topic of this entire episode. Tamar's boo meets the family. So a couple things to pick up out of this, aside from the shade, which we'll get to in a second, is the fact that Tamar introduced what's his name? David.
Is it David?
Is that his real name? Because I forget.
It's the nickname that they have for him too.
Legos is the nickname, but what's his real name? I'm calling him David. I don't know if this is your name, sir, but on today's show, we're calling you David. She introduced David to Logan, which is her son, before she introduced him to the mom and her sisters and all of that. And in my mind, you would introduce, the sisters and the mom first, right?
I don't know. I'm trying to put myself in her shoes. If I had a child and, the child is a huge part of my life, obviously, I would think that maybe the child would be the first person to meet my significant other.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, put a pin in that. We're going to come back to that in our special segment. But also, so Tamar introduced, she had a whole cooking situation. Her mom and her sisters, Traci and Towanda, were there at the house, and they were cooking and doing all, and she just sprung it up on them. Oh, you're going to meet David today. And they were like, wait, what?
Right.
We're not ready. And then they asked, well, who can we compare him to? What is he like?
Why did they say Denzel Washington?
Tamar said Denzel Washington.
Yes. And I was like, okay, wait a minute.
We've had many a discussion on this show about David, and we've used a lot of adjectives. We've compared him to a lot of things. Denzel was never one of those people.
Never one of them. And I said the audacity to compare him to Denzel Washington.
And was that Towanda? Towanda was like, you can't compare him. There's only one person you can compare to Denzel, and that's Denzel.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, this episode, we talked about this before. He looked old.
He does.
Old.
He really does.
He looks like he should be dating Mama E.
Yeah, he almost looks like old enough to be like Tamar's father. Yeah, and I'm sorry. I love Tamar, and I'm all here for love, but...
However, comma.
Again, he is hard on the eyes. I won't call him ugly because I have enough respect for him.
And I won't say anything. I'll just smile. But what did you think about the whole meeting? That's what I was getting to with all of this. The whole meeting, the whole dinner, the whole setup, all of it.
Yeah. So from the moment he walked in, I don't know if it was too aggressive, but I noticed he didn't go in for a handshake. He went in for a hug, and the hug looked forced on his part. So I don't know how, Towanda received it. And then when he went over to Mama Evelyn, he almost went in for the handshake, and Mama Evelyn said, I'm not going to get a hug, And so I thought he appeared to be nervous. I mean, as any guy would, meeting the family for the first time. And then when he sat down and, Mama Evelyn mentioned, I didn't know you were vegan. I cooked chicken. And he's like, oh, I'll eat it. I'm like, yeah, he's definitely nervous.
Yeah, he's trying extra hard to get all the brownie points that he can get at this point in time. I appreciated it. I kind of liked how Tamar didn't make a big deal out of it. So people aren't just overthinking it, just kind of letting out. If you notice, the theme for today's show is natural and organic. Just having natural and organic flow. I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I really appreciate. The rest of it was kind of like, because I didn't like how they were just so into each other that they ignored the rest of the family to the point that they left. I didn't like that.
Yeah. What did you think about him saying that he actually wanted to have kids?
That was interesting. And this is one of those things where when you get into a relationship with someone, you have to have these conversations. Like, we should know, not necessarily in the first week, but definitely they say we're together like 6 months. Definitely in the first month, we're having this conversation, especially if we're over, let's say 35, because time is definitely on both parts. Time is definitely of the essence. And so I need to know, do you intend, especially if I'm Tamar, do you intend to have more kids? Because I might not intend on having any more. Like, my body is set. I got it back where it needs to be. I'm not trying to disrupt this anymore.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for that, then that's a whole other set of conversations that we need to have. So it was kind of surprising that, to me, that he said he did. And she just kind of looked like...
Yeah, I don't think she wants to have any more kids, because I remember her being on the reel and her mentioning, like, Logan is 1 and 1 is good. But so I don't know if she's open to that.
I think somewhere else I recall her saying that she wanted more. I think maybe Vince didn't want more. Because like recently I recall, maybe it was one of the episodes she did on Wendy, where she was like, I definitely want more kids.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe that was years back.
But the thing is, the great thing about today and living in today's world, you don't have to have children the traditional way. So she has enough money. I don't know what he does, but apparently he has money also. They could easily get a surrogate. And the surrogate, it's still your DNA, his DNA. It's just somebody else is carrying the baby, and she can keep her body.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all here for another Tamartian.
That part, another Tamar. I would love for her to have a girl. For some reason, I like to see, like, especially if you're a singer, like, I want Beyonce to have girls.
Yeah.
I wanted Whitney to have, like, more than one girl. Like,
Yeah.
I want you to have your kids. So I guess it's time for us to get into our special segment, News and Gossip.
AfterBuzz TV News.
So it's time to get into news and gossip, which I usually do the news and gossip. So here we are. I'm putting on my broadcaster hat at the moment.
Yes.
In today's news and gossip with Braxton Family Values, there's not much for me to report because they're actually mourning the death still of Lauren, which is their niece that passed away at the age of 25. She was Michael, their only brother, his daughter.
Yeah.
And she had a rare heart condition. It caught the entire family by surprise, and they seem to be kind of taking it a little bit harder. Trina posted something where she said something to the effect of, I don't feel like doing it today. Not that there's any day I would feel like doing it, but she was having a cocktail and she was talking about the memorial service that they had for Lauren. Because Tamar even commented, I don't think there's any day that you're ever going to feel like, burying your niece.
Yeah.
Toni posted a very heartfelt video where she was talking about the memorial and how she was getting ready to do it, and it was really hard on her, but she appreciated everyone for their support and their prayers. Meanwhile, Tamar is on tour.
Mm-hmm.
She is keeping busy with Candy and Trina and everybody else in the dungeon parties. Yes. So they are touring the country. Check your local listings. I'm sure they're coming to a city near you. Tamar did post something in like a little skimpy lingerie number.
Yes. Did you see her caption?
I did. She said that it's been said that people did not know what type of body is under all those church clothes.
Now we know.
Now we know. There are no more surprises for the Tamar Braxton. And that is your news and gossip here at Braxton Family Values.
Yes.
So, okay, moving on from that, I want to reach back around and talk about what I brought up a few minutes ago, which was, at what stage of a relationship should you introduce the person you're dating to your family and or child, and which comes first? Like, how does this order go?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and take the nugget that I got from Steve Harvey and use that 90-day rule.
Okay.
And say that at the 90-day mark, maybe I'll have a better judgment of if this is long-term or not.
Okay.
And so at that point, then I'll decide, okay, do I want to introduce you to my child, or do I want to introduce you to my mother and my siblings first? But I think because Logan is up under her more than she is with her mother and her sisters, it's only right to introduce her now significant other to Logan first. What do you think?
So I'm thinking, and there's no right or wrong. You have to do what works for you and your family. So let me preface my response by saying my response is not right. Your response is not wrong, even if they may be different.
Right.
I've been in this sounds like very.
Uh-oh.
It sounds worse than it is. I've been in quite a few long-term relationships. Okay. Not a plethora, but just a few. And yeah, it's beyond the 90-day rule for me.
Really?
Because I am the guy that, like, I love hard and I'm a hopeless romantic. So most of the time, if it gets to the point that we're in a relationship, it's going to last longer than 90 days because I've already thought and overthought this whole process. But that still doesn't mean you meet the family yet. It's usually somewhere closer to the year mark.
Really?
Yeah, because once we get to a year, for me, that's when I know this is actually going to work. Because we could last I've had some phenomenal relationships that only lasted like 8 months. So it's longer than the 60 or 90-day rule, but it's still under a year. So for me, once we get to a year, that's kind of the point where I'm like, okay, this is actually going to work. And now I did say a previous show before that guys know within.
I was going to say, yeah.
So a lot of times things can change. People change. So it's like my initial thought was, oh, this is going to work. It's going to be good. That's why we made it the 8 months. But somewhere in there, life happens. Somewhere in there, a person. It's when you meet somebody, it's like pulling away an onion, right? They give you this first presentation, and most of the time we fall in love and we love this presentation, but slowly but surely those layers start to peel back,
and you see the person for who they really are.
Not the same person that I started with.
Exactly.
So in that situation, that's usually what happened to me.
Yeah.
So I was bamboozled.
I would say I get bored really easily. So if you still have my attention by the 90 day of us being together, then we might be working with something.
I agree with that. I also think the difference between you and I, and maybe it's a man-woman thing, I feel like women, they kind of like create a plan a little bit. Y'all plan better than we do.
Yeah, we
like,
do.
We're very, not necessarily always spontaneous, but the way that we process is a little bit more spontaneous than women. And I think that may have a lot to do with why for you it'll be 90 and for me it's like a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I haven't had much experience in bringing people home.
Yeah.
So the few people that I have brought home, now that I think of it, we were together for years at a time before I said, okay, now you can meet Mama Hunter. But
Hey, Mama Hunter.
but yeah, so I think now being a little bit more mature, I know by 90 days.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, who do you meet? Who gets introduced first, whether it's the child or the mom or the sisters? For me, I don't have siblings, but if I did, I would think I would go to my siblings first because they're like my buffer.
Yeah.
And then after them, it would be a toss up between the kid or my mom. But one of those would
I can see
definitely be,
that.
yeah. And but you made a very good point that I didn't think of. In Tamar's case, Logan is up under her all the time. So it's only natural for that to happen, for
Yeah.
Logan to meet him before anyone else.
Yeah, and so hopefully him and Logan have a good relationship so that him and Tamar can continue to grow in theirs.
So before we get into these predictions, I just want to ask you, like, realistically, where do you see Tamar and David? I don't even know if this is that man's
Legos.
name. Where do you see him go? Where do you see them going?
I don't know if they're going to get married anytime soon, but it sounds to me that Tamar's in love. And
Yeah.
so I think, they'll definitely have the discussion of marriage. And I don't think that he will have Tamar's kid. But I think that they might move along and last for some time.
Yeah, the thing that I love most about their situationship at the moment is the fact that she's happy.
Yeah.
And I've always, just like everyone else has said, when you're in a relationship and it goes sour and then there's a breakup and a divorce or something along those lines, the best way to get through all of that, because divorces are hard. I mean, breakups are hard, but divorces are even worse. The best way is if there's somebody else that excites you. And also, Traci alluded to in this episode, I thought, Tamar liked big men.
Yes.
And which we said on our
Yes.
previous show. But the thing is, people have to understand your tastes change
as you change.
Like, I remember being in high school and there were certain things that I liked. Oh, you had to have long straight hair, and that is so not me of today.
Right.
I love a natural. I love dreads. I love straight hair, curly hair, red hair.
Yes.
It's just whatever makes you happy and makes you confident. That's what I love. So
Right.
people change.
Yeah.
And you have to be, you can't hold people to a certain standard all the time.
You guys, funny comment in the chat right now from Simone TV. Subscribe, please. K, thanks. Funny name. When you've had a Vincent the Herbert date near anyone is Denzel at this point.
Yes, that person is absolutely 100% accurate.
That is so funny.
And
But
I was
so
gonna
true.
say the same thing. Like, after Vincent, you definitely want the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And the shade that you alluded to,
Mama
Evelyn said,
Oh,
"Oh,
my
thank
goodness.
God he's not controlling." That made you think,
Yeah.
"Oh, Vincent was a controlling thing,
That
wasn't
was
he?"
my first thought. I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that he was as controlling as Mama Evelyn is alluding to, but she said it,
Yeah.
and the shade was real.
The shade was real, but she was also the one that went on TMZ, Mama Evelyn,
She was.
and put out the thing that Vincent was abusive and he did all these things that Tamar later went back and said was not true.
Did she say that he was verbally or physically abusive?
She didn't say.
Okay.
She did not
Both
say.
equally as bad.
Horrible. So anyway, what I want you guys to do, and as we're having these conversations, and even after the show is over, please, in the comment section below, comment. You can
Yes.
follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, follow us everywhere. We will shout you out on the next show. So please comment anything that we've talked about that you think we should cover or that impacted you in some type of way, make sure you comment.
Yes, and be sure to join us week after week in that chat box, and we'd love to chat with you.
So let's wrap this thing up. Give me your predictions for what you expect to see next.
I think Traci is going to continue this comedy thing, and
Oh, wait, sorry. We forgot that y'all have this whole big announcement. Shout out. Go ahead. You know the AfterBuzz TV prediction. Though.
oh, I'm like,
It's just
wait.
like, wait.
So I think that Traci is going to continue with this comedy thing, and it's going to be hard to watch, but I hope my sis figures out what her true purpose is, and I don't think it's comedy.
Well, I'm going to send her this show. I am literally going to cut and copy and tag her in Instagram, this show, and all of our comments that were criticisms, but they were like helpful criticisms to help her get better. And hopefully, in the next season, because, this season's already taped, she'll do better.
Yeah, and even her girlfriend was honest with her, like, girl, you are not doing well with this comedy thing. But hopefully, she explores something else.
Okay. So for me, I'm still waiting to see Mama Evelyn date. That's what I
feel like that's been your prediction week after week.
That's what I'm waiting on. I honestly am ready for Toni and Birdman to be over. Just let that be a drive-by situation. Just let that be something comfortable to get you through those lonely nights and days. Yeah. And then when the prince comes along, you go ahead and get with the person you're supposed to be with. So I'm ready for that to play out. I need her to have a storyline. I'm over this. Yeah,
this Birdman
stuff.
Done. It's boring.
Tamar and David.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. So it's hard to predict for me. I just want to see the mom. That's it. That's all I care about. I just care about Mama
and Vaughn?
I'm
sorry, Trina and Vaughn.
Trina and Vaughn, I think, are good. I think they're solid. I love Vaughn for Trina. I like Trina for Vaughn. And I think I actually think they are the only couple that's going to last.
Yeah.
I think Towanda and Sean may, but I have my thoughts on that. I think that's a staged situation. I noticed that they did not post a picture today.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully we see them in the next episode. I'd be interested in just learning more about their relationship for sure.
That part. I would be interested in learning more about Towanda in general.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we never see her kids anymore. Whatever happened to Andre, I know y'all divorced, but is he still around?
Yeah.
Are you really dating Sean, or is there someone else on, do you have a rotation going? What's really going on with Towanda? That's what I want.
Rotation.
Listen, I told you I'm always for a rotation. If you are single, you need to at least have 3 people in the mix. That's all I'm going to say.
I need to go ahead and text 3 people then after this show.
I want everyone to text 3. When you get done watching this show and giving us 5 stars on iTunes and Spotify, you text 3 people that you've come in contact with or people that you find interesting on Instagram. Send them a message and say what's up. I promise you it'll bless you.
Maybe not this late at night, but go ahead and take his advice in the morning.
Whatever works. So tell the people where they can find you.
Yes, so you guys can find me on all social media at Erika Joy H.
Absolutely. And of course, you can get your entire life following me on all social media at The Tyler Tyson. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see y'all right here next week on the Braxton Family Values After Show.
Yes, bye.
Peace.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.